In this video, Integration and Commitment, I'll attempt to summarize and pull together the ideas from the previous video presentations. But first, I'd like to share a poem from Mary Oliver. What I loved in the beginning, I think, was mostly myself. Never mind that I had to, since somebody had to. That was many years ago. Since then, I have gone out from my confinements, though with difficulty. I mean the ones that thought to rule my heart. I cast them out. I put them on the mush pile. They will be nourishment somehow. Everything is nourishment somehow or another. And I have become the child of the clouds and of hope. I've become the friend of the enemy, whoever that is. I've become older, and cherishing what I have learned, I have become younger. And what do I risk to tell you this, which is all I know? Love yourself, then forget it, then love the world. As Mary Oliver says, the fruit of individuation is that long inner journey from narrow, selfish love to loving everything. It's a letting go of useless and limiting self-images, beliefs that keep us trapped and small. We move through these restrictions, let go of avoidance, denial, and projections to become simpler, children of this earth, connected to others and to our greatest self. We are sustained by hope and love rather than fear, and we commit to becoming our true selves and in making the world a better place. We live our lives on purpose. The subtitle of this presentation is Individuation in Practice. It attempts to answer the questions, what should we do and how should we do it? So let's start with the basic attitude that's absolutely essential. The Individuation Mindset is a set of fundamental attitudes and practices that help us on our inner journey. We have to constantly reinforce and revisit these attitudes and remember to keep working on our practices every day. Our first essential aspect is to commit to our individuation path, whatever that is. An intentional commitment is more than a desire or a wish. It's a dedicated attempt to grow and change each day. For us to commit, we need to cultivate pure intent. Pure intent has two aspects. It is a consistent, disciplined effort to tread our path, to do what we know is helpful every single day, and at the same time to be inwardly surrendered to whatever happens, to let go of control of the outcome. Surrender is key. As long as we cling to our selfish needs and desire control over everything, we will tend to get stuck. Only opening ourselves to something beyond and greater than our small selves can we transcend the ego. The foundation of all spirituality and inner development is a quiet mind and an open heart. We need to practice every day until it becomes habitual, till it becomes part of who we are, until those moments when we aren't doing anything are times of quietness and openness. Quietness and openness are fundamental for self-awareness. They help us be aware of our experience in the here and now. And they help us accept ourselves with love, with compassion, and with openness. So the tasks of individuation are threefold. Our first task is to manage our unruly ego, to keep it in line and on task. Second task is to enlighten the shadow. Beneath awareness, our personal unconscious, the shadow, intrudes often in an unhelpful way into our lives. We need to bring the light of consciousness to the shadow, enlighten its darkness so that it can integrate and share its gifts with our ego. Most important of the tasks is to shift the center of our identity away from personality and ego. We have to listen to the quiet inner voice that comes from inside. These are the promptings of the self. So I'm going to go into each of these tasks in more detail. So, what is managing the ego? It means, first of all, taking care of ourselves. We have to cultivate physical, mental, and emotional well being. We need to curb our desires, fears, and distractions. And we need to take time for self examination and reflection. Think of this as similar to gardening or having a pet. If we do not cultivate our garden, plant it, weed it, and water it, it'll turn into a jungle of weeds or a barren wasteland. If you don't look after your pet, say a dog, it gets unfriendly. It might even get vicious. It needs food, it needs exercise, it needs loving attention. But it can't control the whole of the household. In a traditional metaphor of the chariot and charioteer, the body is the horse, the ego is the chariot, and the self holds the reins. You cannot let either the body or the ego take control. Desires drive the ego. Fears see threat around every corner. So the ego tries to restrict us to keep us safe. So we have to manage the fear. We have to balance it with hope and look forward with a positive attitude. When fear overwhelms hope, we get negative and pessimistic and lost. There's a great quote from Dune, famous science fiction book. Fear is the mind killer. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. This is a great way of thinking about fear, about letting it pass through us, not clinging to it. The ego often can get lost in distraction, mind wandering, checking Facebook, thinking about things which are unnecessary and unhelpful. So we need to keep our ego on task. And its task and what it's good at is planning, organizing, arranging, thinking about what's going to happen and adjusting what we need to do in the present. Our minds are good for analysis, they're good for reflection. So we need to use our minds to help us stay on the path. Second aspect of managing the ego is restraining the negative or shadow aspect of the ego. Self-restraint is key. We have to hold back those aspects of the ego which tend to overwhelm our sense of self. Those four aspects of the shadow ego are the need to control, the urge to judge, the desire to be special, what I call the delusion of self-deception. Now, none of these will go away completely as long as we're alive. But we have to notice when the ego co-opts and colonizes our experience, particularly our spiritual development. We have a fatal flaw of believing we are special, all important. And that specialness becomes the whole aspect of the ego, which clouds our judgment, which clouds our view of reality. We're all somewhat delusional and believe our beliefs are totally correct. So it helps if we can hold our beliefs lightly and accept that we are mostly wrong. Our unconscious is our greatest asset. We cannot function if our unconscious is not our friend. Everything we do rests on our unconscious abilities: walking, talking, thinking, feeling. And the shadow, our personal unconscious, has energy, power, and the ability to keep us moving forward. It contains our underdeveloped aspects and abilities. It is once our greatest challenge and our greatest treasure. To enlighten this shadow, the first thing we need to think about is reflecting on the wisdom of our dreams. Listening to our dreams every day allows the shadow to move into the light. The more we appreciate and value our dreams, the friendlier our shadow and the unconscious becomes. The other thing we need to do is to assume all our judgments are projections. Whenever we criticize or judge, at least 50% of that is probably projection. We do not know, and yet we assume the worst, particularly about other people's intentions. Most human beings are not consciously malicious, but we are all selfish, misguided, and damaged, and mostly lost in our own desires and projections. Whenever we don't understand an experience, when we are lost and confused, we can approach that experience from the point of view of the unconscious. We approach it as if it is a dream. We look at it in terms of its symbolic and metaphorical meaning. And we ask ourselves, what is its purpose? What is it for? So we may have an event that we don't understand. We may have something happen which upsets us. But if we can pull back and look at its symbolic meaning, as though it was happening to us in our sleep, in a dream, we can begin to understand that it has a deeper, more profound impact, a more extensive meaning. We need to notice when we're captured by our complexes. Whenever we're captured by the shadow aspects of our unconscious, we feel submerged in a dark, heavy feeling. We get lost in a typical emotional reaction and behave in ways which do not really reflect who we think we are and who we are truly. Complexes are interesting because, in some sense, they're very predictable. That it's as though a button has been pushed and we react automatically to that button. So we need to notice those buttons. We need to notice those things which seem to pull us into a dark and heavy place. And whenever that happens, we know that we're not right, but we also have to forgive ourselves. Now, forgiving does not mean condoning. It does not mean that the behavior was okay. Forgiving is different. We forgive in order not to be entangled, to not be obsessed, to not be attached and guilty about something. We don't want to be driven by the perceived hurts and wrongs. So when we forgive ourselves and we forgive others, it's as though we let go of these dark shadow aspects which bond us together with them. So forgiveness is essentially about letting go of clinging and attachment to negativity. Final task is to listen to ourselves. Connecting to the self is to connect to our aliveness and to wake up from our semi-consciousness. It's easy to be complacent. It's easy to be half awake. And it's hard to be conscious and self-aware. We have to make an effort, struggle, do those things which allow us to be aware of the here and now and to be present in whatever is happening to us in this moment. Listening to ourselves means to cultivate a constant inner practice. So we need to find the best way for us to be quiet in our minds and open in our hearts. And we need to do this every day, if only for a few minutes. So there is lots of time, whether we realize it or not, between tasks and events. There's a lot of transitional time. We might be driving in the car. We might be walking from A to B. And this is a time to cultivate inner awareness and connection through mindfulness, through prayer, through just being present. And in that way, we connect to the unknown and unknowable source of everything, of our consciousness. We also need to ask for and follow our inner guidance. Listening to the quiet promptings and dreams, intuitions, and receivings makes our life richer, fuller, and guides us in a way which is beyond our mind, beyond those things which we believe are important. We need to do what the unconscious suggests. Now, we need to trust in ourselves, but we can't always know whether we're getting guidance from the self or maybe from the shadow or from the ego. So we have to test our intuitions and receivings against our experience. We don't take them for granted, but we keep checking inside and checking to see whether there's a feeling of rightness. And when there's a feeling of rightness, it's light, it's empty, it has no emotional content. It's as though it's just simple and easy. It's a yes or a no. And we need to be a loving person, particularly when we don't feel like it. Maybe we're in a bad mood. Maybe we woke up and we feel tired and grouchy. Those are the times when we can practice and make an effort to be more loving to those around us. Lastly, we need to be purposeful. I'm going to say more about love and purpose in the next few slides. So the two main ways in which we can express our individuation is through love and through purpose. These are the two pillars of an individuated life, love and purpose. They're basically the two main reasons that human beings stay alive, because without them, life is bleak, is meaningless, is empty. So individuation is learning to be more loving, connected, engaged, and caring. It's also about finding and fulfilling your life purpose, about living a meaningful life that creates a positive difference to the world and others. I believe we're here to make a difference. Our life task is to discover the difference that we can make and do it to the utmost of our ability. So, what is love? Love is the glue that holds everything together, the bonds of wholeness. It reconnects the broken and alienated aspects of ourself and the world. In the Jewish mystical tradition, this is called Tikkun Olam, healing the world. We heal the world through love. All healing, physical and psychic, is based on love and connection. Healing is the same as wholeness. When we are whole, we are healed. When we are healing, we are reaching towards wholeness. Love attends to the needs of ourself and to others. Loving attentiveness is the best gift we can give anyone, including ourselves. And that attentiveness is not distracted or automatic, but it's adjusted to the nature of the other person and to the situation. It's not blind, it's not automatic, it's full of wisdom and insight. So love is thoughtful. It knows what the other person needs, what they will enjoy, what will help them. Love does not exclude. It comes from an open heart. It's tolerant, accepting, and kind. We feel it in others as a force that creates well-being and spreads positive energy around. And when we're loving, we also promote that connecting whole energy. Love is both specific and limitless. So it's focused in the moment on a specific person, on a specific situation in the here and now. It's not just a general feeling. It's doing something for that person which fits with what that person needs. But it also has this other quality of being boundless, limitless. It extends beyond our self-interest and selfishness. It's an altruism that creates a heart as big as the ocean. In essence, love has no limits. So let's look at purpose. Purpose is the fulfillment of ourself and inner nature. It's the reason we're alive and in this particular body and in this particular life. It's not a thing, not an ability, exactly not a career or a role. It's the difference we bring to the world by being who we are. It's the dynamic of our being, our inner nature expressed through action, and our presence. Our purpose is to become who we truly are and to realize and develop our talents and our inner nature. So each person comes complete with a unique nature and qualities. I would call these talents. They're potential abilities that demand to be expressed in this life. So our talents need to be developed and used. And as we grow up, we search for an appropriate way, a container in the form of work or career that reflects who we truly are and what we bring as a unique human being. And when we can use our talents in the world, when we can find our purpose, we have this sense of inward content, of being satisfied, of being happy. So purpose makes a positive impact on others and on the world. This difference, this impact, is what we are intended for. The world is not the same when we leave as when we arrive. We have changed it. Fulfilling our purpose is like a gem dropped into a still pool. As it settles down, the ripples keep moving outwards, affecting people and the future in ways we can never understand or even imagine with our minds. So we have to be alert to the ways and means in which we can manifest our talents and our purpose. So I'm going to summarize how we need to commit to individuation. First of all, we need to maintain a strong, intentional mindset. We need to engage with the tasks of individuation, managing the ego, enlightening the shadow, listening to the self. We need to express individuation in our lives through love and through purpose. If we pay attention to these aspects of our experience every day, we can expect a lot of challenges, but we will receive inner riches beyond our imagination. Thank you.